Well, hello, friends. Hey, Mike Falkenstein here with a new episode of Mike is on a Mission. I'm so glad that you're here with me. And I think we've got another really good episode for you. Hope you guys are all doing well, keeping fit, eating right, all of that good stuff. I'm at least trying my best. As I think I mentioned in the last episode, I had quite a cold 10 days ago. And, it's funny all the stuff, the mucus and phlegm and everything is kind of remaining. And so I've just started back running again. And it's like this morning I was like, I love to run, but it's also nice to be able to breathe when you run. And so just because I have all this stuff still built up in my chest, and yeah, it's something. Now, the thing I don't know is whether or not, since I've got, of course, we all are getting older. As I've gotten older, it does seem like it's just taking a little bit longer to recover from something like this. So, but you can tell my voice is better, and I'm breathing at least a little better. And so, yeah, doing pretty well. And I hope you're doing well as well. So, hey, listen. So last episode, I did an episode about whether Christians should boycott companies. And hopefully I gave you some kind of the biblical context for that, some things to think about, which is it, hopefully as you've watched that episode and kind of processed for yourself, what that would look like. Hopefully you've been able to kind of at least get kind of an idea of what you may do as you boycott companies. And in today's episode, I'm going to sort of tag on to that because as I've been watching the news, I've been seeing some of these companies that have just gone far, what they may call woke, right? Just far to the left, right? Just advocating for things that I think mainstream America would kind of not would not support. And so the question has to go, at least in my mind, the question goes, why? Like why would they do that? I mean, in other words, like today I'll talk about Target, the retail store chain called Target. And, Target is actually a pretty good, it's a good store. Like back in the day, my wife and I loved shopping at Target. Now we have some other options, and walking through a Target, they're nice stores, and so I often wonder why would they seemingly intentionally sort of disenfranchise potentially half of their customers. And so all of this has caught me off guard, and it's caught me off guard because companies like Target, they want to just stay in their lane. Like, we don't want to talk about any of these controversial things. We want as many customers as we can because it's good for our bottom line. We want to do right by everybody, including our shareholders. Right? And so, yeah, so this has kind of been catching me off guard. And so today, in today's episode, I've been doing a little bit of reading and research about why are these companies going kind of this far left into these social topics that otherwise are not in their lane in any way. And for those of you who are not familiar with what I'm talking about, you're probably just not a someone who's reading the news regularly. So let me give you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about when I say some of these companies have gone kind of far woke or far to the left. So I've got two quick examples. The first is Anheuser-Busch, which of course, amongst other beers, they make, they're a beer brewer. They make Budweiser and Bud Light. And, Budweiser and Bud Light, through 30, 40 years of kind of careful marketing and advertising, has really kind of become what I would call kind of America's favorite beers. And so it was surprising a month or two ago when Bud Light partnered with a transgender, that is to say, a man pretending to be a woman, a man by the name of Dylan Mulvaney. And so here is Dylan Mulvaney. He did a couple of Instagram posts, got paid for it, and talked about Bud Light, and so clearly this partnership had developed, and the backlash from this partnership has been fierce. And the partnership has been fierce, I think, mainly because the people who are Bud Light's core customers really want nothing to do with transgender ideology and or a man pretending to be a woman. Like, that's not the image that they would go for when they go, yeah, I'm a Bud Light drinker. Because now you drink Bud Light, and I've even seen online people are getting made fun of. Some of these men are getting made fun of. It's now become kind of the gay beer, so to speak. And so that's an example of kind of this far woke, kind of this far left ideology. The other one that you've probably heard of, which I actually talked about in the last episode, is the retail store chain Target that I just mentioned. Target celebrating what they would call Pride Month. Apparently June is Pride Month. So the pride in the LGBTQ community. That's a mouthful. And so as a part of participating in Pride Month, Target has a small section of clothing in their stores that has the rainbow colors and, the pride. And I actually, because I just wanted to make sure myself, last week, I actually went to our local Target, which I don't know if this is true still, but at one point, our local Target here in South Metro Denver was the largest Target store in America. Now, it's probably not anymore because that was several years ago. And so, in addition to advocating for this Pride Month, having actual clothing items that would recognize Pride Month, they and this is actually a picture that I took myself. Target is actually partnering and donating to an organization called GLSEN, and GLSEN stands for the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network. And so this is actually a picture I took at my local Target, where they proudly say that they've donated money to the GLSEN, which, the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network is a teacher group founded in 1990 with the aim of creating affirming learning environments for LGBTQ youth. Now, I don't know how they would pronounce their acronym, so I'm just going to stick with GLSEN. But GLSEN is actually pretty bad. I mean, the fact that Target has openly said that they've donated $2.1 million to an organization that advocates both for, so what GLSEN does is they try to work with school districts to make this affirming network, this affirming environment for LGBTQ youth, including teaching school districts to not notify parents if the child, quote unquote, comes out as gay at school. Another controversial practice of GLSEN is that at least in 18 states now, they've been able to get having teachers use trans names for children in class, but then reverting to the original quote unquote dead names when talking about parents. Now, to me, that would be enough reason to boycott Target alone, right? And in fact, in the last episode, I actually talked kind of a bit about, what criteria would we look for? And certainly anything that would take away the rights of parents and notifying parents. I mean, parents have the ultimate responsibility for their kids. And if there's stuff that's happening in schools that would, take away from those rights, of course, I'm going to be against it. But the question then, in my mind, is why are these companies doing this? I mean, it seems like it takes away from their core business. I mean, Target is not an advocacy organization. Target is a chain of retail stores, right? Bud Light sells beer. You think they would do everything that they could to sell more beer? Actually, as it's turned out, both Target and Bud Light have actually done less business because of this advocacy. And so the question then comes in my mind, okay, why? Like, why would they do that? So I did a little research, and here's the reason why. There's an organization in the United States called the Human Rights Campaign, which, is the most powerful LGBTQ lobbying group in the world. They've created this index called the Corporate Equality Index. So going forward on this video, I'm just going to call it the CEI Index. And the CEI Index, which is their benchmarking tool, their national benchmarking tool on corporate policies, practices, and benefits pertinent to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer employees. So every publicly traded company in the United States gets a CEI score from the Human Rights Campaign. So here is roughly how that works. So you can see here, the Human Rights Campaign has a 100-point CEI index to score companies and their inclusiveness. So 20 points for each of these 5 categories, right? So workplace protections. Oh, actually, no, 5 points possible there. Inclusive benefits, 50 points. Supporting an inclusive culture, 25 points. Corporate social responsibility, another 20 points. And number 5, responsible citizenship. So it is the Human Rights Campaign, actually, that gives this 100-point score. Each company receives a score on a scale of 0 to 100, with those earning 80 on the list, on the index, or higher, recognized as quote unquote best places to work for disability inclusion. And so that is how that works. So the Human Rights Campaign on publicly traded organizations is giving this score. And the question then, the next question I should say, is that why would companies care what the Human Rights Campaign scores them on their index? Well, it actually turns out that there are big fund managers, like there's an organization called BlackRock. These big fund managers are top shareholders of major companies, including like Nike. We've seen in the news lately for this as well, Anheuser-Busch. And so BlackRock oversees assets worth $8.6 trillion. So these fund managers all embrace this CEI orthodoxy in how they apply pressure to top corporate management teams and boards, and they determine, in many cases, executive compensation and bonuses and who gets reelected and reappointed to boards. So let me just kind of break that down just for a minute. So many of these big companies, like a Anheuser-Busch or a Target, their shares in their company are the majority stakeholders are these organizations, these big fund managers like BlackRock and many other big fund managers. And the big fund managers really like this CEI. They feel like it's how they're going so they use the Human Rights Campaign scores to then say, okay, these are the organizations and companies that we like, these are the don't. And so where the CEOs get into trouble, from what I understand, let's say you have a CEO of a major company that says, this CEI, I don't care about this. This is so dumb. I just want to do business. I just want to do our business. Well, because the majority of your shares are owned by these companies that really advocate for the CEI business, you can lose your job if you don't keep up with the Human Rights Campaign CEI index. And so then corporate decisions are more and more being based on making sure that you have a high CEI index so that fund managers like BlackRock and many others continue to fund your organization, your company, continue to, I mean, if your executive compensation is tied to your CEI score, you can see where a CEO, even if they don't want to now, feel pressured to to do this. And so then decision making becomes different based on your CEI score. And apparently some of the reading that I did, this Human Rights Campaign is actually quite aggressive. I mean, they know the power that they hold over these companies, and excuse me. And so they actually come into companies and interview people, and they have access to this because BlackRock and these other fund companies really think highly of this Human Rights Campaign and this index. So that it was interesting to me, because now all of a sudden it's like, oh, I kind of understand now why these companies are making what would otherwise seem to be really, really dumb decisions because of what they're doing. So as I've done the reading about this, I had sort of two thoughts I wanted to share with you about this. Of course, I think what we're really seeing here is the influence that Satan has on our world. To kind of bring it back to the Bible a little bit, right? We know from Scripture that God has given Satan a certain level of influence, right? I mean, we know that in Ephesians chapter 2 that Satan is called Prince of the Power of the Air. In John 12:31, he's called the ruler of this world. And, these titles and many more signify Satan's capabilities. A lot that could be said about that. Of course, from a theological perspective, Satan does have some influence in this world. Of course, he only has the influence that God has given him. We know when we get to the end times that Satan will finally be crushed and defeated. And so whatever power he does have is temporary, but he does have some power. And so when you look at how our society works, I think you can see the influence of Satan in this, where you have major companies, because of the major fund managers, donating money to organizations that are more quote unquote woke, right? That are going after children, that are confusing children about their genders. As I mentioned in the, I think it was 2 episodes ago, there was that example of in northern Colorado where the school district actually sort of approved of teachers that were essentially lying to children and parents, and about gender and sexuality. And so whether it's from a corporate perspective, an education perspective, what the corporate people are donating to, we see this influence of Satan in the world. I mean, it's a concentrated campaign to go after sex, gender, our kids, their sex and gender, their sexual orientation. I mean, we're seeing that influence more and more. And so number two, then, as we see this happening, like literally in real time, I do think it's a call for us as Christians to, to really to do two things. One, I'm reminded of Matthew 10:16, as Jesus is sending out his disciples into the world. He says, "Behold, I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves, so be as wise as serpents and innocent as doves." Right? I mean, we need to be as wise as serpents, number one. And we need to recognize that what we're seeing in the world today and in our culture is not just happenstance, that we are seeing Satan working in real time. And just understanding that and recognizing that, I think, is important. And then number two, we need to stand up and say, that none of this is okay. I mean, it's okay for us as parents and citizens to say, there is a biblical standard that I'm going to live by. When God created us, either male or female, that was intentional, and there's no, transitioning from one gender to another and all of that. So as we have our eyes wide open, obviously, I know we can't boycott every company that advocates for this ideology, but I think we can. I think if God leads us, we can boycott certain ones, and we're actually seeing that. So between the Bud Light situation that I mentioned and the Target situation, those two companies have lost a combined total of something like $28 billion in market value over the last couple of weeks. And it has been largely because people who are beer drinkers, for example, have said, I used to drink Bud Light all the time, but with what I'm seeing and all this craziness, it's just really easy for me to change to Pabst Blue Ribbon or another type of beer. I don't know beers very well, but or to say, some of the money that I spend at Target is being used to donate to this GLSEN, and I just don't want my money to be used that way, right? To confuse kids, to lie to parents, and it just is really easy for me to just go to another company, right? To go to another store. So, and then, as we selectively boycott, as God leads, I'm really praying that this does lead to these big fund managers and corporate CEOs to reconsider their stance on these issues, because at the end of the day, eventually, I would think they would. I mean, I know Budweiser, Anheuser-Busch, which brews Bud Light. I've been reading a lot of stories that they're really scrambling. I mean, they're really hurting. It was really a dumb decision to partner with this man who dresses up as a woman, because, over the last 30 or 40 years, they've crafted Bud Light and the image of Bud Light as the beer that, the guys get together and drink as you're watching football, or if you're at the bar playing pool, or, it was kind of the beer, right? And to ruin all of that in a month or two doesn't make sense to me. I mean, why? I mean, you do, Budweiser and Anheuser-Busch, want to sell beer, right? This is not how you sell to your core constituency. So I'm hoping that, as we take a stand and as we boycott and as we, know that we've been sent out as sheep amongst the wolves, We understand the influence that Satan has in this world, and we are both wise as serpents and innocent as doves, and we do boycott when we feel led to boycott. That that it would make a difference, and I think it is making a difference. And so, dear Christian, as I end this episode, may I just encourage you to be wise and to know that you do have a choice as to where you shop. And while you're probably not going to be able to boycott all the stores and all the brands and the ones that God pricks your heart, because as you're spending time with the Lord, as you're praying, He's going to prick you and say, I just can't do it, right? It's sort of like my wife and I, who, we have a couple of nights a week we like to watch a TV show, and just more and more we're finding that, more of these TV shows have, gay or lesbian characters. And while that in itself is not bad, when you begin seeing, gay sexual scenes, we just go, we just don't need to do this. We don't need to watch this. We don't need to spend our time. And in the same way, it's like, I just don't need to spend my money at Target, because I know what some of it's going to, right? To confuse kids and lie to parents and fund this organization. So be wise, be bold, and just always remember that it's okay to say that something is not okay. And, it is when we do that, I think these big fund managers and these CEOs, they're going to catch on and say, there's just enough people in the United States and around the world that's not going to put up with this anymore. So I hope that's a help. Please get in touch with me. If there's anything else I can do to help you kind of think through all of this, I would love to talk to you. Of course, as always, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. If this video has been helpful, be sure to share it with friends as you feel led. I would sure appreciate it. And I am so thankful that you've been with me. I hope you're well, and I look forward to seeing you and having you with me on the next episode of Mike is on a Mission. Bye for now.